Live from Radio America, an American legend, the G-Man. This is the G. Gordon Liddy Show.
I am so high, I can hear heaven.
And you are listening to the G. Gordon Liddy Show on the Radio America Network. I, however, am Greg Columbus, news director here at Radio America, filling in for G. Gordon Liddy, who is not here today. My special guest in the studio is Aaron Klein, author of The Manchurrian President, Barack Obama's Ties to Communists, Socialists, and Other Anti-American Extremists. Aaron is also the Jerusalem bureau chief for WorldNetDaily.com. Aaron, it's great to have you with us.
Thanks for having me.
And a reminder that you can join in the conversation as well. The number here, 1-800-GG-LIDDY, 1-800-GG-LIDDY. That's 1-800-445-4339. And, Aaron, the title of the book would remind most people of the movie The Manchurian Candidate, where the premise is kind of that there are people behind the scenes pulling the strings, and the candidate may even be unwittingly thrust to the front to accomplish a specific agenda. Is that what you see in the case of Barack Obama?
The Manchurian Candidate, the movie and the original book, was about a sleeper agent, a presidential candidate running for office, and he was a sleeper agent for communism. So I am in no way, shape, or form claiming that President Obama is a sleeper agent for anyone. But the concept of you have this politician who there's something, there are parts about him, of his policies, his objectives, the individuals who mentored him. There's so much more that the American public does not know, does not see, and that he's an agent for a kind of change that most Americans don't know about. And so that's what prompted me and motivated me to have a book with such a title. And this subtitle, I know it's sensationalist, Obama's Ties to Communists, Socialists, Anti-American Extremists, but the book is almost 900 footnotes. It is thoroughly documented, so it's not opinion. It's fact after fact after fact about the extremists, not only in Obama's background, not only who helped groom Obama and give him his first position, or actually his college days and some of the extremists he was involved with there, but the extremists now in the White House, outside the White House, helping to craft legislation and policies, but they might have a different agenda if you look at some of their writing and their work.
I mentioned just a moment ago that your main beat is the Middle East, Jerusalem. So given that position, what prompted you to write this book about the American president? I've
been in the Middle East for about 5 years as the Jerusalem bureau chief, as you said before, of WorldNet Daily. And during the presidential campaign, just on my free time, I started to look into President Obama, and I found out, and again, totally on my free time, I find out that Obama is tied to a guy named Bill Ayers, who's the founder of the Weatherman terrorist organization that sought the downfall of the U.S. government. And I thought, wow, Obama, and by the way, when I say tied, I mean deeply tied. I mean Obama got his first major position from Ayers. I mean Obama and Ayers served together on the board of a nonprofit that funneled money to certain causes that then pop up again during the presidential campaign. I mean, Obama launched his political career in the living room of Bill Ayers, and I thought, well, this must have been reported by the watchdogs in the media in the United States. And I did a web search, and I was shocked to find that not a single article reported on Obama's connection, deep connection, to this anti-American extremist who sought the downfall of the U.S. government. And so from 5,000 miles away in Jerusalem, I wrote an article that first tied Obama to Ayers, and right away, this is how I knew that I was onto something. Immediately, I was attacked by no less than CBS News, which said that I was carrying out a smear campaign against President Obama. Smear, if you define smear as a factual report tying Obama to this extremist and to extremists in general, then, yeah, that may be a smear, but I thought that it was a very important story. And from there, I started to look into Obama in general and his ties to Acorn and his ties to the socialist-led SEIU, a major union, and so many other extremists. And I was shocked to learn that the media in the United States weren't doing their investigating, weren't looking into this president like they should have. And so I kind of put aside my role as a Middle East reporter and started to report on Obama because so few others in the media were doing just that.
The book is The Manchurrian President. Your phone number to call to check in with us here on the G. Gordon Liddy Show, as well as the author, Aaron Klein, 1-800-GG-LIDDY, 1-800-445-4339. Aaron, you mentioned William Ayers, so let's talk about that. The stock answer from the president's campaign in 2008, and I believe it was even in the third debate when John McCain brought it up in that debate, was that when Bill Ayers did what he's admitted to doing and is unrepentant for to this point, he was 8 years old, didn't know him, and it was 40 years ago, so why does it matter now? Early on in the book, you say the connection between Obama and Ayers actually goes back much younger in Obama's life, and to this point, we haven't heard about that. What's that connection?
Yeah, indeed, and I'll tell you, to say that Ayers is some sort of reformed terrorist, when one day after the 9/11 attacks, there was an article in the New York Times quoting Bill Ayers saying, "What a country America is. It makes me want to puke." He also talked about how it was a glorious day when he planted a bomb at the Pentagon. This is not a reformed terrorist. What you had in the 1960s basically were a bunch of organizations and individuals who sought the downfall of the U.S. government, who wanted to get America out of Vietnam, and there were basically two ideas. One was to attack from the outside, and that was a group led by Ayers, led by his wife Bernadine Dorn, and they started these terrorist organizations and seek to attack the U.S. from the outside. And then you had other individuals who wanted to bore from within, who wanted to create organizations within the mainstream U.S. Organizations like ACORN, organizations like the SEIU, a major union, to accumulate so much power that eventually they can take over the system. And then Bill Ayers comes back after the FBI had to drop charges against him because of prosecutorial misconduct, and he realizes, well, the best way to get involved with bringing about the downfall of the U.S. capitalist system is also from within the system. And so Ayers gets involved with education. So don't be fooled by Ayers. He's no reformed terrorist. He still talks about the downfall of the U.S., except now it's by boring from within. And Obama, you can actually go back to his childhood when he comes back from Indonesia at age 10 and a half, 11, and Obama goes to a Sunday school in Hawaii. It's called the First Unitarian Church, and this is a Sunday school that gave out T-shirts that said leftist religion. I'll just give you an idea. This was a Sunday school in a church that was a sanctuary for the Students for a Democratic Society. That was Bill Ayers' anti-war movement. But I'm not arguing that because Obama went to a Sunday school when he was 11 years old that this defines him now. I'm also not saying that he was connected to Ayers then, but I do find out, and this is very interesting, that Obama is connected to Bill Ayers directly a lot earlier than thought. Specifically, in 1988, when Obama first gets a job at an organization, it's called the ABCs. It's an education organization. And in his so-called autobiography, Dreams from My Father, Obama writes about how he gets this position from an individual named Marty Kaufman. We investigate. There is no Marty Kaufman. His name is Marty Kellman. He's a Marxist. He's a student of Saul Alinsky. So this is another scandal, by the way, that Obama, throughout his autobiography, Dreams from My Father, he's disguising names of these fringe activists, telling us one name when it's really another. So Obama goes back with Ayers quite some time before. And what scares me is that Obama is still involved with extremists who are tied to Bill Ayers to this day.
In another portion in that book, Dreams of My Father, he talks about Frank Marshall Davis. Exactly, who was, I believe, an admitted Marxist.
And communist.
Same thing. And so that's another connection that he has. As you look at these different connections that he's had from his childhood to his young adulthood to obviously the point where he comes onto the public scene, running for public service, being a community organizer and so forth, at what point is there a transition from this is someone who will listen and perhaps believe in the different ideology that we're espousing to someone who can carry our banner for us?
You know, President Obama, we really have to be worried about the ideology of boring from within. This is Saul Alinsky, who is the Marxist community organizer. Obama, of course, in the 1990s was a Saul Alinsky-style community organizer. And Alinsky, his ideology was to bore from within a system in order to bring about the downfall of the U.S. capitalist system. And here's what I worry about. It's that Obama's early days are tied to his presidential days. I'll give you an example. Obama in the 1990s, in 1996 through 2002, served as a paid director on the board of a Chicago nonprofit. It's called the Woods Fund. And he serves on the board alongside Bill Ayers. And one of the organizations that Obama and Ayers funded together, it's called the Midwest Academy, which was an Alinsky academy. Again, Alinsky wants to bore from within in order to bring down the U.S. capitalist system. That was the ideology of this academy.